The sun was setting over like a fake one, painting the sky with soft orange and pink hues. At the Green Leaf Bistro, a popular restaurant buzzing with laughter and chatter, diners savored plates of jollof rice and fried chicken. Waiters moved swiftly, serving rich and powerful customers in the heart of Lagos's bustling district. In a quiet corner sat Olumide Ajayi, a man known in real estate circles as a billionaire with unmatched success. But tonight, his eyes held a sadness deeper than the dark shadows cast by the low-hanging lamps. His mind was elsewhere, lost in memories of his late wife and their little son, gone too soon. Olumide picked at his food without appetite, whispering softly, 2 years today. I still carry you both in my heart. As his thoughts drifted, the restaurant door opened, letting in a gust of warm Lagos air and a figure who would change his life. Amaka Johnson, a young woman no older than 25, stepped hesitantly inside, carrying her fragile baby girl, Zainab. Her dress was worn and dusty from days on the street. Her eyes, though tired and wary, shone with a fierce determination. She moved slowly toward the tables, eyes scanning for kindness in a place where few noticed the homeless. When she saw Olumide's nearly finished plate, she swallowed her pride and whispered, "Excuse me, sir, may I have your leftovers? Please, for my baby." The restaurant grew still. Patrons paused their conversations, watching the powerful man confronted by a desperate mother. Olumide's heart skipped. He looked at Amaka's humble face, the tiny baby clutching her tightly, and felt something stir, a spark of compassion he hadn't known in a long time. Slowly, he slid the plate toward her. "Take it," he said quietly. Amaka's hands trembled as she carefully wrapped the food in a black nylon bag, her eyes brimming with tears. "Thank you, sir. May God bless you," she whispered, voice cracking. Olumide watched her walk away, the plate now a symbol not just of food, but of hope. He felt a pull to follow, to learn who this woman was and why life had brought her here, to this moment. As Amaka disappeared into the Lagos dusk, Olumide's grief mingled with a new purpose. Perhaps, in helping her, he could find healing for himself. Olumide stayed seated for a moment, his eyes fixed on the spot where Amaka had vanished into the twilight. Something about her resilience, the way she carried baby Zainab with such care despite their obvious hardship, struck a chord deep within him. He knew the city of Lagos was full of stories like hers, hidden struggles behind bright lights and tall buildings. Unable to shake the feeling, Olumide quietly rose and stepped out into the cool evening air. He kept a distance, careful not to startle her. As he followed down a narrow alley off the busy Ajaleki Expressway, he saw what he had feared. A rusted, abandoned bus parked haphazardly near the lagoon's edge, its windows broken and seats missing. This was Amaka and Zainab's shelter. The bus was a fragile sanctuary against the harsh elements, a flimsy roof over their heads, nothing more. Olumide's heart ached as he watched Amaka tuck the baby close, shielding her from the biting Lagos breeze. How many nights had she spent here, alone and afraid? How many meals had gone uneaten? He stayed hidden in the shadows, wrestling with what to do. Could his help come without shattering the dignity she still held on to? Would she trust a stranger, even one who wanted to ease her suffering? Each day thereafter, Olumide arranged for small packages to be left near the bus: baby formula, diapers, warm blankets, and food. Amaka would find them in the early morning light, tears falling as she whispered prayers of thanks. But Olumide knew this was only a bandage over a deeper wound. Then came the worst moment. One stormy night, baby Zainab's fever spiked, her small body burning with heat. Amaka wrapped her tightly and rushed through the rain to Lekki General Hospital. But the harsh reality hit hard. The hospital demanded payment before treatment. Desperately, Amaka pleaded, but the cold walls and strict rules turned her away. With trembling hands, she borrowed a stranger's phone to send a message, an SOS to the only person who had shown kindness. Olumide's phone vibrated in the quiet of his room. The words hit him like thunder. "Please help us. My child is very sick. We are at Lekki General Hospital." He jumped up, rain pounding against his window. In that instant, grief and hope collided. The man who had once felt powerless to save his own family now had a chance to save another. Olumide didn't hesitate. Grabbing his coat and keys, he dashed out into the night, the Lagos rain soaking his clothes as he raced toward Lekki General Hospital. His mind replayed the message over and over. "My child is very sick." The urgency was a sharp contrast to the quiet sorrow he had lived with for so long. At the hospital, the harsh fluorescent lights and sterile corridors felt cold and unwelcoming. Amaka sat on a hard bench, clutching Zainab tightly as the baby's small breaths grew shallower. Tears streamed down Amaka's face, hopeless, exhausted, yet refusing to let go. Olumide appeared just as a nurse shook her head, saying treatment couldn't begin without payment. His presence shifted the room's energy. Calm but firm, Olumide approached the nurses and doctor, his voice steady. "This baby needs help, now. I will cover all costs." Without delay, the medical staff sprang into action. A doctor took Zainab into the emergency room, setting up drips and oxygen. Amaka followed, overwhelmed by gratitude and disbelief. Olumide stood by, his heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. Watching Zainab's tiny chest rise and fall, he saw his own son's face, lost too soon. This was more than charity. It was a chance to rewrite a story of loss and despair into one of hope. Hours passed like minutes as Amaka stayed beside Zainab's hospital bed, whispering lullabies and promises. Slowly, the fever began to break. The doctor's nod of approval, a balm to their weary souls. Later, Olumide met with hospital administrators, settling bills and arranging follow-up care. But his mission wasn't over. He called his trusted assistant, Tunde Bello. "Prepare an apartment," he said quietly. "Somewhere safe and clean. This woman and her child need a home, a fresh start." As dawn broke over Lagos, Amaka held Zainab close, feeling the first flicker of hope in weeks. She didn't know who Olumide really was, only that a stranger had saved her baby's life. For the first time since the bus, she dared to dream. Days passed since Zainab's hospital emergency, and Amaka still struggled to believe that kindness had touched her life so deeply. Her tiny baby, once burning with fever, now slept peacefully in the hospital bed. Yet the fear of returning to the broken bus and uncertainty haunted her every thought. Then, just as the doctor promised, it was time for discharge. Olumide was there, waiting quietly with a warm smile. He handed Amaka a bag filled with nourishing food and baby supplies, his eyes gentle but full of resolve. "This is just the beginning," he said softly. "I've arranged for a place where you and Zainab can be safe." Amaka's heart pounded. A home? After months of hardship and cold nights, the idea felt almost unreal. Olumide's assistant, Tunde, soon arrived with keys to a neat apartment inside a gated estate called Pearl Gardens, a place Amaka had only seen from a distance in her dreams. The walls gleamed white, the floor shone under soft lighting, and baby toys rested on shelves. The kitchen was stocked with fresh food. Amaka stepped inside, holding Zainab close, tears of disbelief streaming down her face. She sank to her knees, overwhelmed by a flood of gratitude and hope. This wasn't just shelter, it was a chance to rebuild, to heal. Olumide watched quietly, his own heart swelling. Helping Amaka was more than charity. It was a way to honor the family he lost and the kindness he still believed in. That evening, as Amaka tucked Zainab into a cozy crib, she whispered a prayer of thanks. The apartment was filled with the soft sounds of city life outside, but inside was peace, a fresh start. Olumide promised to return the next day, not just as a benefactor, but as someone who wanted to help Amaka reclaim her life. The morning sun filtered gently through the curtains of Pearl Gardens. Amaka sat quietly on the couch, Zainab nestled safely in her arms, her eyes bright despite the sleepless nights. This new home was a world away from the cramped bus by the lagoon, a place filled with possibilities. Olumide arrived, dressed simply but with an unmistakable air of kindness. He greeted Amaka warmly and handed her a small bag filled with toys, clothes, and fresh fruit for Zainab. The gesture spoke volumes, care that went beyond mere charity. "I'm glad you're safe here," Olumide said softly. "When you're ready, I want to hear your story." Amaka took a deep breath and began to share her journey. Her time in school studying mass communication, the love she found and lost, the rejection from Ifeanyi's family, and the heartbreak of being alone and homeless with a sick baby. Each word was heavy but spoken with quiet strength. Olumide listened intently, his eyes never leaving hers. He shared pieces of his own story, the loss of his wife and son, and how it made him see the world differently. "Life can break us," he said, "but it can also give us a chance to rise again." He offered Amaka a job at his real estate company, knowing her education and resilience could help her rebuild. "When you're ready," he said, "there's a place for you." As days turned into weeks, Olumide also arranged for Amaka to visit her mother, Mrs. Yetunde Johnson, who lived in Badagry village. The reunion was emotional, tears, apologies, and the long-awaited healing of broken family ties. Meanwhile, Ifeanyi, now aware of his daughter's existence, began sending support, recognizing the responsibility he had long avoided. Amaka's life, once shadowed by despair, blossomed into a story of hope, fueled by compassion, courage, and the kindness of strangers turned friends. Weeks after moving into Pearl Gardens, Amaka's world began to shift in ways she never imagined possible. The safety of the apartment, the steady support from Olumide, and the warmth of her mother's forgiveness in Badagry gave her strength she thought she had lost forever. At Olumide's real estate company, she started her new job with quiet determination. The office buzzed with activity, meetings, phone calls, contracts, but Amaka found solace in learning, growing, and proving to herself that her past did not define her future. Olumide watched her progress with pride. She was more than an employee. She was a living testament to what kindness and opportunity could accomplish. One afternoon, Amaka sat on the balcony of her apartment, cradling Zainab, whose laughter now filled the rooms with joy. The city stretched out below, the bustling streets of Lekki, the distant lagoon shimmering in the sun. It was a far cry from the abandoned bus where they had once sought refuge. Her phone buzzed softly. A message from Ifeanyi appeared. "I'm sorry for the past. I want to be part of our daughter's life." Tears welled in Amaka's eyes, not just for the message, but for the hope it represented. She looked down at Zainab and whispered, "We're not alone anymore." At that moment, Olumide knocked gently on the door. He stepped inside carrying a small gift, a photo album filled with pictures of his late family. "I want you to have this," he said, "a reminder that life can be fragile, but love endures." Amaka accepted the album with gratitude. It was a symbol of connection, between loss and healing, between past pain and future promise. Together, they sat in the quiet apartment, two souls brought together by fate and kindness, ready to face whatever dawn awaited them. Months had passed since Amaka and Zainab's life had begun to transform. The once fragile, homeless mother now walked with quiet confidence. The small apartment in Pearl Gardens had become a home filled with laughter, learning, and love. Amaka's job at Olumide's company grew into a career. She excelled in communications and client relations, using her story to inspire others facing hardship. Each day, She found strength not only in herself, but in the community of friends and family who now surrounded her. Her mother, Mrs. Yatunde, had moved closer to the city, eager to be part of her granddaughter's life. The walls between past misunderstandings and pain crumbled as forgiveness and love rebuilt their bond. Even Ifeanyi, once absent and distant, had embraced responsibility, sending monthly support and visiting when he could. The fractured family was slowly mending. Olumide, too, found healing through giving. His heart, once heavy with loss, now held hope, not just for himself, but for all those he could help. The kindness that began with a plate of leftover food had blossomed into a lifeline. One bright morning, Amaka stood on the balcony overlooking Lekki's bustling streets. In her arms, Zainab giggled, kicking tiny feet full of life and promise. Amaka smiled, whispering a prayer of thanks. She had survived the shadows of despair and stepped into the light of a new dawn. Her journey was a testament. No matter how dark the night, kindness and courage could lead to a brighter tomorrow.